Greetings, Namo Badhai. I am K.T.S. Rao, professor and former head of the Department of Buddhist Studies at Delhi University. In this module, number 4, and the next 2 modules, we shall talk about the biography of the Buddha. The biography of the Buddha begins actually literally eons before he was born as Siddhartha Gautama. So in this lecture we will talk about his life prior to he was born as Siddhartha Gautama, that is the previous lives of the Buddha. Now the source material on the biography of the Buddha exists primarily in the form of mythical and exaggerated legends, in which the available tiny amount of historical information is so intricately intertwined with the mythical material that some scholars have even questioned the very existence of the historical Buddha. The authors of these legends had put them together to project the life of the Buddha as an inspirational example of a hero to his followers, and hence as the gauge against which all Buddhists are meant to measure their own lives. Additionally, the hero is intimately linked to his teachings, which cannot be understood without understanding the hero who embodied them. The reason for this is that as the story of the life of our hero is perpetually and fundamentally a sacred biography, any kind of criticisms or suggestions of imperfection being at variance to the fundamental purpose are extremely rare in the narratives. Though the Pali Tipitaka and its commentaries mention a few episodes in which the Buddha appears little less than perfect, generally the early literature presents us with a nearly perfect Buddhist hero. Moreover, the Buddhist legends have grown around a universal blueprint of biography for all the Buddhas. In other words, Shakyamuni Buddha is merely one Buddha in a long line of past and future Buddhas, with the biography of each Buddha being exactly the same. Thus his birth and the various miracles related to it are exact replicas of the birth stories of every other Buddha. Thus the Pali texts mention that it would be true of every Buddha that in his last life he, number 1, is conscious at the moment of his conception, 2, remains cross-legged, facing forwards in his mother's womb, 3, his mother gives birth to him in a standing posture, 4, his birth takes place in a forest grove, aranya, 5, immediately after birth he takes 7 steps to the north and utters lion's roar, Sihinad, 6, he leaves home on seeing the 4 omens and after being blessed with a son, and 6, has a meal of rice pudding, Gavpan, on the day of his enlightenment, and then he attains enlightenment seated on a carpet of grass under a Bodhi tree, Bodhi Rukh, and then practices concentration in breathing, then defeats Mara's forces. Brahma comes to see him and requests him to preach the Dharma. Then he preaches his first sermon in the deer park at Rishipatan, Isipatan. So all these things are true of all the Buddhas of the past and the future. Further, With the passage of time, as texts and artists continue to draw inspiration from each other, legends become not only more and more elaborate, but also the different traditions removed as well as added material to the narratives in their own unique fashion, thereby creating many versions of the same incident. So the artists drew inspiration from the texts, but the texts in return were influenced by the works created by sculptors. Thus, just because the fingers had to be interconnected to reinforce them so that they do not break, the idea of webbed hands of the Buddha appears to have originated. In the face of this predicament, building of the historical biography of the Buddha by gleaning out the historical facts from the mythical material is impossible. As Alfred Fouché has pointed out, to make Siddhartha into a myth is to dissipate the personality of the Buddha into smoke. But doing away with that myth would amount to no less serious misunderstanding. At best, therefore, one can prepare only a highly tentative historical biography of the Buddha. The sacred biography of the Buddha begins uncountable number of lifetimes prior to his last birth as Siddhartha Gautama. His attainment of Buddhahood was not the result of a few years of meditation and striving, but the end product of hundreds of previous lives that are counted in the Jataka stories. According to Buddha Ghosh, the Bodhisattva had two kinds of mindfulness: mindfulness in the human realm and mindfulness in the God realm. As Prince Vishwantar, in Pali is called Visantar, in the human realm, he is shown as being aware that he would be reborn in the Tushit heaven, an awareness of which most human beings are incapable. The Bodhisattva is also shown, unlike the other devas, as having been mindfully reborn in the Tushit heaven and having stayed there mindfully during his entire period. Whereas the devas of Tushit were engrossed in enjoyment so much that they would forget to eat or drink and would eventually fall from heaven after having died of starvation, the Bodhisattva was reborn in the human realm of his own volition. Thus, in Tushit, he closed his eyes and having inclined himself to death, he was reborn in the human realm.